welcome to this new video for my channel, The Mental Traveler. I'm Caro Herrera, and today I'm going to be talking about the 5th and final season of a show called Poldark. It stars Aidan Turner, Eleanor Tomlinson, Gabriella Wilde, Jack Farthing, Ellis Chappell, Luke Norris, Pip Torrance, Harry Richardson, Vincent Regan, and many, many more. The season consisted of 8 episodes, and it began airing in July and it ran until the end of August. Before I begin though, let me just say that this will be a video with spoilers, so if you haven't seen the 5th and final season, beware. I discovered the story of Ross Poldark thanks to this series. When the first season aired, I watched it, totally fell for it. I bought the 12 books it's based on. I devoured them. I fell even more in love with this world. Then I saw the 70s series as well, and I just couldn't get enough Poldark, and I've been following this new show each year as a new season airs. And I've also been reviewing the old series each season for this new one, as well as the 12 books. And you can find the links to all of these reviews in my description box below. Set in the late 18th century, early 19th century in Cornwall and in London, this is the story of Ross Poldark, a mine owner and a veteran soldier who's also become a politician. We'll follow Ross for quite a while now, getting to know his family, friends and foes. And in this season we meet new characters, encounter new problems, and see how it all comes together before the season/series concludes. I really wish I could give this season a different review because I've really loved this show so much through the years, but I honestly wasn't as fond of this last season as I've been of others, so I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars review. I think it was well acted, it has gorgeous costumes, fantastic landscapes, but for me the problems are plot-wise. For example, this season shows a lot of stuff that wasn't covered in the books. Why? Because Winston Graham, the author of these novels, wrote the first 7 books dealing mostly with Ross Poldark, but then between books 7 and 8 there is a span of some 10 years, so that for the rest of the series all the characters are older and the plot starts to focus more on Ross's children. So what do we get to see in season 5? Well, Debbie Horsfield, its creator, speculated happened during the 10-year gap between books 7 and 8. And while some of those speculations are based on some historical facts, for example, the story of Ned and Kitty Despard was interesting, I just didn't really like what was happening with the original characters. For example, okay, yes, it's been a while since I've read the novels and I've only read them once, so I may be mistaken here, but I didn't like what this season was doing with Caroline and Dr. Ennis, or with Ross and Demelza, or with George Schwarzenegger, or even with Morwenna and Drake. Why? Because it felt just so odd and out of character from what I remember from the book. And it felt like the writer was just creating unnecessary drama to fill this season with material, and that's why this season is a sort of double-edged sword for me. Because while on the one hand it's nice to see in detail what might have happened during that 10-year gap, it was also not necessary in my opinion to show Caroline and Dr. Ennis having all of these marital problems that I honestly can't remember them having in the books. Or okay, Morwenna and Drake. If I remember correctly, Morwenna doesn't seek to have contact with her child after she goes off with Drake. And okay, sure, every mother is entitled to react differently to that sort of situation that she went through. But again, it just felt odd at times because that's not what I remember, I think, happening in the books. The same goes with George and his madness, as he imagines Elizabeth still being alive and talking to her and everything, and his uncle Carrie being in the position of almost having to commit him because otherwise people will talk of this huge scandal. Or Ross and Demelza supposedly going back to like square one, where Demelza thinks that Ross has feelings for another woman, he's cheating on her again. It's like, oh man, we've already seen this, they've evolved from this point. And okay, well, it wasn't actually true because it was a farce to fool other people. At one point, Demelza thought that Ross was actually cheating on her. So yes, it was like, okay, I've already seen this. And it was way better the first time because it's based on the books. Now it's just written for shock value and it's not really well done for me. So yeah, overall I remember loving the first seasons because they were more faithful adaptations to the novels. But the more inventions the writer came up with, the less hooked I was with this wonderful period drama. But okay, one thing that I really did love about this season was its ending. Not the fact that it ended, but the way it was handled. Because I think it serves as a beautiful bridge with the 8th book. Meaning that at the start of the 8th book, when the 10-year age gap has passed, we meet up with Ross again in Europe while on this mission, and that's how the 5th season ended, so. And also briefly, since we're talking about how the 8th book begins, if I remember correctly, Geoffrey Charles makes an appearance with Ross. This leads me to say that at the start of the season, I didn't like the fact that they hadn't given Geoffrey Charles a love story because that's not what I remembered happening in the books, and I was so certain that at the end of the season, Geoffrey Charles was gonna end up with Cecily, and I was like, no, that's not what happens. So yes, I may be freaking out a bit because I'm a book purist or whatever, but I did love the fact that in the end, Geoffrey Charles and Cecily, by the fact that it broke my heart, didn't end up together, because now it adds even more layers to Geoffrey Charles, the character from the book, to imagine that he had a doomed first love affair, and then after some years, he moves on, and we meet him in the 8th book, and then we follow him through what happens to him romantically. Anyways, for the moment, I believe that this is all I have to say about Poldark, the 5th and final season. I hope that one day, in a decade or so, they can make a sequel series with the same cast covering what happens from books 8 to 12. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much for watching my review of it. Please let me know if you enjoyed it or not, as well as what are your own thoughts on this season, because I would love to talk about it with you. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, in the description box below you can find my reviews for the previous seasons, for the 12 novels, as well as for the 70s show. And you can also find a link to the IMDB page for this series. Anyways, I'm Caro Herrera, the Mental Traveler, and I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. I'll be seeing you soon. Goodbye!